exposed. 3 spine-chilling true stories of haunted nights alone. Discover the sinister secrets. Sarah's heart raced as she fumbled through the front door. After another grueling day at the marketing firm, the last thing she needed was to face her mounting dread. The unopened notes from the always charming Mrs. Jenkins, the woman she trusted with her son, lay in the corner like shadowy reminders of impending doom. As a single mom fighting to provide for her son, Tommy, her choices felt suffocatingly limited. She squeezed the note in her pocket, its ominous words echoing in her mind. Beware the whispers in the night. She stirred the pasta on the stovetop, the bubbling water a distraction from the growing anxiety. It was supposed to be a peaceful evening, but whispers of dread curled around her thoughts, twisting her perception of their suburban haven. Tommy's laughter, usually bright and carefree, now seemed to carry an underlying tremor. "Mommy, I don't like being alone at Mrs. Jenkins," he confessed, his wide eyes glistening in the dim light of their kitchen. "It's just an old house, buddy," Sarah reassured, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. But could she truly dismiss the dread that was clawing its way into her subconscious? She noticed Tommy's fingers tremble as he traced his fork through the pasta. That night, darkness enveloped the neighborhood thickly. The streetlights flickered with an unsettling rhythm, and Sarah brushed off the sensation of being watched. But Tommy clung to her side with widened eyes, whispering about strange noises, something that sounded like footsteps above Mrs. Jenkins' living room. She waved it off, telling herself he was just being a kid. It was easier to ignore. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into an unsettling rhythm of fear-fueled nights. Flickering lights danced in suspicious patterns. The air chilled as if brushed by an unseen hand. Sarah's anxiety flared each time she received another note, the words growing darker, more threatening. "Trust no one, especially not the woman in the garden." Every time Tommy spoke of whispers, the ice in Sarah's veins chilled deeper. The horror clawed within her. Could Mrs. Jenkins be hiding something more sinister? The comforting flowers that surrounded Jenkins' home now distorted into ominous shapes, growing closer like a collapsing nightmare. A storm brewed in Sarah's chest as she glanced out of her window, feeling the weight of eyes upon her. Then came that night, the night when everything folded in on itself. As she held Tommy's hand, the air grew heavy, the world outside cold and stifled. With every hurried step back to their home, the shadows flickered with something both grotesque and beautiful. And that's when Tommy screamed, jerking to a stop, eyes wide with horror. "Mom, we have to run." The sound tightened Sarah's throat as a swirling darkness loomed behind them. The unthinkable realization settled in: this wasn't just fear. They were not alone. A raspy whisper crept through the air, promising to expose secrets buried in the soul of their community. And as they turned to flee, the truth crashed upon them. The night was alive with unspeakable terror, dark enough to swallow them whole. And while they sprinted away, desperately clutching at the slivers of hope that refused to shatter, the shadows coalesced, reaching out as if to ensnare them. What had Sarah brought into their lives? As they took flight, a voice echoed in her ears. You shouldn't have trusted her. A feeling of betrayal sunk deep, a reminder that the heart of their quiet suburb throbbed with uncaged horrors waiting for the moment of reckoning. The air twisted with breaths of panic as Sarah and Tommy bolted down the narrow street, their hearts thundering in sync. The darkness around them pulsated, alive and watching. Every crack of a twig sent jolts of fear racing down Sarah's spine. She glanced back, expecting to see the shadowy figure from Mrs. Jenkins' garden, her movements fluid, yet disturbingly unnatural. "Mom!" Tommy's voice trembled beneath the evening air. "What's happening? Where's Mrs. Jenkins?" She shook her head, trying to keep the quaver from her voice. I don't know, Tommy. Just keep running. Their feet slapped against the pavement, each step a desperate plea for escape. The comforting streetlights flickered erratically. Shadows twisted and contorted around them like mocking phantoms. Sarah could hardly think, her mind racing. Was Mrs. Jenkins just a sweet old lady after all? Or had she really been lying in wait, hiding secrets behind her flowery facade? A guttural whisper floated between them, rising from the very ground beneath Sarah's feet. You can't run from me, the voice hissed, caressing her ears, slithering into her thoughts. She clenched her fists, battling the urge to scream. Her heart sank. The night had teeth, and they were closing in. There, up ahead, a flicker of light, their house. But they weren't safe yet. A low growl echoed through the shadows, a sound unlike anything she'd ever heard. It wasn't just dread creeping into her bones. It was something deeper, primal. Whatever was after them was hungry. Mom, please. Tommy stumbled, his grip weakening as they neared home. A deep panic surged through her, propelling her forward. She couldn't let him fall behind. Not now. Not ever. They dashed up the steps, but as they approached their front door, a chilling wind swirled, pushing against them as if the very house itself were refusing their entrance. Instinctively, Sarah froze for a split second, her skin prickling. Come on, Tommy. Just as they reached for the doorknob, it rattled violently. The menacing specter of Mrs. Jenkins loomed in the illuminated doorway, an eerie silhouette with wild, unkempt hair that danced like phantom flames. You should never have disobeyed me, she whispered, more felt than heard. The words dripped with malice, curling around Sarah's throat like a vice. Run! Sarah screamed, shoving the door wide. As they tumbled inside, darkness swallowed them whole, slamming the door behind them. There was an unsettling silence. Tommy's wide eyes searched the corners of their living room, the shadows stretching towards them hungrily. Mom, what do we do? Sarah pressed her back against the door, gasping for breath. We hide and we don't make a sound. Crouching low, they darted behind the sofa, heartbeats hammering like thunder in their ears. The longer they remained still, the more the oppressive silence gnawed at them. Sarah held her breath. Outside, the whispers grew louder, swirling in a chaotic melody spilling over into her thoughts. She'll find you, the voice danced across the air, making the fragile walls shake. You must choose or you will lose everything. Sarah's mind was racing. Choose? Choose what? The shadows pressed against the edges of their home, demanding passage. What had she brought upon them? Just then, a sudden crash came from the kitchen. Something was there, something sinister, closing in on their position. The weight of the night settled deep within her as she searched for any thought that could ignite hope. As the breaths of terror echoed in the silence, a single chilling thought coiled around her heart. What if the whispers knew their secrets? What if they were always watching? And just as the whispers coalesced into a deafening roar, Sarah braced for the horror she knew was coming. Would the truth be their salvation or their demise? What overcomes trust? The chilling voice echoed yet again. With one trembling hand on Tommy's shoulder, she whispered, "We'll find a way. Just trust me." But as the kitchen door creaked open slowly, revealing the unexpected terror lurking inside, she couldn't help but wonder if she was too late to save them both. The kitchen door creaked open wider, inch by agonizing inch, revealing only blackness beyond. A disconnect formed between the reality of their cramped position behind the sofa and the unfathomable terror that loomed just out of sight. The air chilled, like fingers of ice creeping under her skin, and Sarah's throat constricted. Every instinct screamed for her to bolt, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Mom, Tommy's voice was barely a whisper now, a fragile thread of hope unraveling in the thick, suffocating darkness. Sarah pressed a finger to her lips, her heart throbbing in her ears as she strained to hear. The house seemed to breathe, inhaling their fear, exhaling a sense of dread that became almost tangible in the stillness. Each minute felt like an hour, each passing second filled with the weight of impending doom. A low, guttural sound slithered from the kitchen, sending waves of nausea through her. It was raspy but rhythmic, like some wretched creature drawing closer, savoring the moment just before the feast. The shadows in the room seemed to stretch and writhe as the whispers intensified, filling the air with a language she couldn't comprehend. "Mom, use the knife." Tommy startled her with his sudden suggestion, quickly pressing something cold and metallic into her palm. She looked down, her heart quickening as she recognized the kitchen knife. It felt heavy, but in this moment, it was a lifeline, a sliver of courage against the tide of terror. But before she could respond, a sudden crash erupted from the kitchen. Her instincts kicked in, pushing her into action. She glanced at Tommy, terror gripping his youthful face. "Stay close," she hissed with one harrowing breath. She crouched low and edged toward the kitchen doorway. The darkness beckoned like a beast, inviting her into the unknown. Tommy's small frame trembled beside her, but he held tight, a little warrior in his own right as they reached the threshold. The air grew thick and stagnant, the whispers coiling around them like a serpent ready to strike. "Choose," it hissed again, filling the space with an echo that pulsed in her chest. "Choose what?" she demanded into the darkness, desperate to reclaim some control. "What do you want from us?" Silence answered, a void so deep it felt sentient. Only the distant pattering like something crawling across the ceiling remained. It was the kind of sound that sunk into Sarah's depths, sending shards of fear through her core. Suddenly, a shape emerged from the shadows, moving too fast for her to comprehend. It rushed toward them, a blur of wild motion. Mrs. Jenkins. Her hair was a disheveled mess, eyes shining with a predatory glint. "You thought you could escape?" she shrieked, her voice twisting like a knife. Time slowed. Sarah raised the knife instinctively, her knuckles white against the handle. "Stay back," she shouted, her voice fueled by terror and adrenaline. But Mrs. Jenkins continued her advance, laughter bubbling up from the dark depths inside her. "You have no idea. There's more to lose than you think." Just then, the floorboards beneath Sarah creaked, sending a shockwave of panic through her. They must have made a grotesque choice without even realizing it. A figure shifted behind the old woman, dark and shapeless. Its intentions felt ancient wrong. "Tommy, run!" she screamed, shoving her son toward the living room. She wouldn't let him face this horror alone. As they darted back, the oppressive darkness surged with life, clawing at their heels. The whispers grew into a frenetic cacophony, drowning out everything else. "Tommy!" Sarah shouted, turning to find him, but he was gone. The shadows swallowed him whole as a terrifying realization gripped her. Not all were meant to be saved. "Choose!" the voice thundered, reverberating throughout the house. Heart racing, Sarah stood frozen, her senses colliding in a storm of fear. What would she bargain? What was she willing to sacrifice to bring Tommy back? And then the realization hit her like a jolt. Could it be that she was the one who had to pay the price? With her breath caught in her throat, she felt the walls close in. She had to choose. What if she was all alone against a hungry darkness? The darkness felt alive, a pulsing entity striving to compress her into nothingness. Sarah stood paralyzed, hands trembling around the knife, a meager protection against the unexplainable horror lurking just beyond the veil. "Tommy, where are you?" Her voice rang out into the void, swallowed whole by dread. There was no answer, just a silence thick enough to slice. Every shadow in the corners loomed larger, seemingly alive, consuming her strength and resolve. The whispers returned, hauntingly familiar, crawling beneath her skin. They intertwined with thoughts of her son, a desperate melody echoing through her mind. "Is this why you chose?" they taunted, mocking her helplessness. "Stop it!" she shouted, perhaps more to herself than the unseen forces. The knife felt slick with sweat, slipping in her grasp. She took a shuddering breath, forcing her feet to move, inching toward the gaping dark where her son had vanished. "Tommy!" she called again, panic igniting the air. If there was any chance, any glimmer of hope, she needed to find him. The house creaked ominously, wood groaning like a beast stirred from slumber. An echo of her fear rippled through the space. It sensed her, thrived on her dread. Suddenly, from the depths, a soft cry pierced the night. "Mom? I'm scared." It was him, her Tommy. The sound wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing tighter and tighter. "Tommy, where are you?" She sprinted toward the sound, every instinct urging her forward. But as she neared the kitchen, the air thickened, and the whispers crescendoed into an almost deafening roar. "Choose," they sang in a cacophony of voices, woven with echoes of her own fears, a warning no, a demand. She paused outside the kitchen, breath uneven, heart pounding against her ribs. The knife felt heavier now, almost burdensome. What did they want? What choice lay before her? "Tommy." She crouched low, peering into the blackness. Shadows twisted and shimmered, flowing like dark water beneath a rising tide. "Please, I need you to answer me." From the abyss, two eyes blinked open, slowly glowing with an unnatural light. Sarah's breath caught, a jagged gasp escaping her lips. They didn't belong to her son. The wretched smile that crept across the face was twisted, a grotesque mimicry of joy as it slithered closer. "Do you really think he's coming back?" The figure crooned, voice laced with venom. "What do you think he would sacrifice to save you?" "No." She shook her head, feeling panic claw at her throat. "Get away from him." But the figure only inched closer, a predator closing in on its prey, laughter bubbling up like a terrible potion. It was a sound rich with malice, filled with everything she feared would become real. Flickering sparks of light danced at the edges of her vision, and suddenly, her surroundings shifted. She was no longer in the kitchen, but rather on some cold, damp floor. An underground chamber? The walls were slick with moisture, the air stale and heavy. "Choose," the voice echoed again, now a chorus of malicious laughter that reverberated off the walls, merging with the shadows. "Mom!" The sound of Tommy's voice thrust her back, wrenching her heart and igniting her need for him. She fought through the darkness, dodging grasping shadows. The environment pulsed as voices crescendoed. Choose to save him. Choose to be free or choose the darkness. Each option came with a gnawing weight, pressing down on her sanity, taunting her. What was she willing to sacrifice? Fear clawed at her, lighting her insides on fire as she stumbled back into the reality of her choice. Could she give up anything and everything? Would it be enough to bring Tommy back? Her resolve wavered, and then she felt it, a glimmer of hope, a stubborn ember of love. "Not him. Not my son." A sudden desperation filled her voice, surging with the raw intensity of a mother's love. One last cry of her baby echoed from the depths, brushing her skin like a caress. The walls of the chamber began to tremble as if caught in an earthquake of conflicting desires. In that moment, she steeled herself. "I'll fight for you, Tommy. I'll choose to save you." But as she took a step toward the truth she sought, the ground beneath her quaked violently, throwing her off balance. She grasped the knife, ready to do whatever it took. Then, a figure erupted from the shadows behind her with a howl, and everything went black. What happened next? The whispers came again, wrapping her mind in a cruel embrace. "Choose," they shrieked. As the darkness subsided, one question burned fiercely in her mind: would she ever find her son again? Light flickered back into existence, a harsh beam cutting through the darkness that had consumed her. Sarah gasped, the icy touch of clammy hands still grasping at her arms, fangs of fear scraping against her insides. She brought the knife up, trembling, ready to strike whatever unspeakable thing had caught her. But nothing was there. She peered into the darkness, half expecting it to swallow her again. The whispers faded as if soothed by the light, replaced by a deafening silence, a stillness that made her skin crawl. "Tommy!" she cried again, her voice trembling, breaking the emptiness. The chamber around her breathed with indifference, its damp walls gleaming like the surface of a grave, and for a moment, she felt she might suffocate under the weight of the silence. Nothing. Desperation thrummed in her veins. She dashed forward, heart hammering, fists trembling around the knife's handle. Shadows danced in the corners, shifting with each cautious step, keeping secrets from her. "What do you want?" she choked out, half angry, half pleading, seeking guidance from the void. Choose. The echoes came from nowhere and everywhere, slinking through the air like smoke. The familiar cadence twisted her gut, sending her thoughts spiraling into dark territory. How many times had that voice tempted her before? In the shadows, images fused together, haunting specters of decisions made long ago. Dreams turned to nightmares, the faces of missed opportunities staring back at her. She stumbled back, swallowing bile. How had she ended up in this distorted nightmare? To escape the rising tide of panic, she focused. There had to be a way. She cast her vision around the cold chamber, desperate to find a door, a path back to her son, to sanity. A feeble glimmer caught her eye. A door stood at the far end, weathered, beckoning yet ominous. It rattled softly as if someone beyond tested it, soft knocks vibrating like a heartbeat. Tommy? The question hitched in her throat. Mom? Help me. His voice, small and terrified, shattered the veil of her fear. She rushed forward, feet pounding against the slick floor, careful not to lose herself again. Hold on. I'm coming. Just as she reached the door, it slammed open, propelled by unseen forces. In that instant, the air shifted, swirling around her like a storm. Out of the opening came a figure like molten shadow, stretching and curling, its contorted form shrouded in a cloak of darkness. An icy breeze swept through, freezing her in place. You think you can save him? The voice was malevolent, reverberating in her bones. You hold your knife, but are you willing to let him go? No. Anger surged within her, flaring alongside her heart's frantic beat. I won't choose. She clutched the knife tighter, a sickening twist of fear and resolve. But her confidence waned in the encroaching darkness. The figure drew closer, its eyes burning like coals. Then you will both be lost. A wave of pure evil washed over her, knocking Sarah to her knees. The knife slipped from her grasp, clattering against the stone, a sound swallowed by the all-encompassing void. Mom, don't leave me. Tommy's voice seemed to reverberate through her, a lifeline that tethered her to hope. She had to fight, to stand back up as shadows slithered greedily toward her. A flicker of memory ignited in her mind, the warmth of Tommy's laughter, the unyielding love she wrapped him in every day. She breathed deeply, the light inside her flaring defiantly against the gathering dark. I will choose. But before she could rise, the darkness surged, wrapping around her like barbed wire, stinging and consuming. Visions of her son faded, the shadows laughing, taunting, feeding off her doubt. Then she heard it, one last heartbreaking cry. Mom! The shriek pierced her soul, snapping her back to reality. Hope surged anew, igniting a fire in her chest. I will save you, Tommy. As she pushed against the darkness, desperately clawing for a way out, the shadows screamed back in fury. In that moment, she felt it, a choice laid bare before her. To save Tommy, she would have to face the darkness head on. But would she be strong enough? The chamber shook, the ground beneath her shifting violently, threatening to pull her under. She realized with a terrifying certainty that she had not tamed the darkness. It was only waiting for her moment of hesitation. Save me, her son's voice echoed, and Sarah felt the pulse of her determination resonate with his plea, rallying her will against the malignant force that surrounded her. As she stood on the brink, hands trembling, heart racing, one burning question fluttered through her mind like a trapped bird. Would she risk everything to face the shadows and uncover the truth about what lay ahead? The darkness coiled tighter, and Sarah felt a grip as cold as death pulling her toward the abyss. Panic rose within her chest like bile. She couldn't let the shadows consume her, not when Tommy was screaming for her, not when she stood on the threshold of desperation and resolve. Face me, Sarah shouted, summoning whatever courage still glimmered in her heart. She steadied herself, forcing her body to remain upright. They were waiting, the shadows drawn back, twisting and knotting around her, as if they were alive and hungry. The malevolent figure swirled closer, its smirk widening, revealing glinting teeth that promised agony. Your choice is a feeble attempt, it hissed, the words slithering through the air with a palpable malevolence. Give in. Give up. It's easier. The shadows danced, forming grotesque shapes while the voice of doubt wrapped around her like a tightening noose. Tommy, just hold on, Sarah cried, focusing on the echoes of his voice, the image of his innocent face breaking through the horrifying illusions. I will not forsake you. But the world around her began to shake, the very ground trembling as the darkness writhed violently. A radiant light flickered within her like a dying ember. She needed to stoke that flame, keep it alive. With a fierce roar that filled the chamber, she threw herself into the shadows, slashing through them with her empty hands as if wielding her knife. Tendrils of darkness shrieked, recoiling from her touch as she pushed deeper into the gloom, propelled by maternal instinct. Every ounce of strength surged through her, challenging the shadows that wished to drown her. Tommy, she shouted again, louder now. I'm coming. The chamber trembled as if responding to her call, and from the depths of terror, a bead of light began to pulse like a heartbeat. It spread through the refuse of blackness, momentarily illuminating the faces haunting her, unforgiving reminders of decisions that hung over her like a guillotine. Grinding her teeth, Sarah plunged forward, propelled by the urgency of her love. She could see the outline of her son's small frame through a net of shadows. Mommy! It rang out, filled with deeper fear than ever before. But as she reached for him, the shadows tightened, trapping her within the night, stretching out taunting whispers that whispered sweet doubts. You think you'll save him, but it will only be the end for both of you, they hissed. What will you sacrifice? The malevolent figure, no longer a mere silhouette, loomed behind Tommy, its claws extended like a predator ready to pounce. Paralyzed by the weight of horrifying choices, her breath hitched. No, I won't let it happen. Flickers of light began to pulse faster around them, each flicker a reminder of the love she had built over the years. The memories surged within her mind, Tommy's first steps, his laughter echoing in her heart. With a desperate cry, Sarah lunged forward again, grasping at the shadows, shattering illusions as she shouted, I choose love. I choose my son. Suddenly, the shadows screamed, a cacophony of terror that pierced her ears. The ground trembled as if the very essence of darkness flinched away from her surge of will. The wall of shadows wavered, disintegrating under the sheer force of her love. But just as victory seemed to cling to her, the darkness twisted, forming a barrier that seemed to twist her very heartbeat into oblivion. Choose. The voice howled again, a chilling undertone. Do you understand what you're giving up? Tommy, she wailed, a raw scream that ripped from her throat. The darkness hesitated, and in that fleeting moment, Sarah felt the cold grip of fear gnawing at her resolve. Would she stand firm? Was love enough to fend off the swells of despair wrapping around her? As Tommy's figure shimmered through the fading veil, Sarah's heart raced, reality warping around her. Would unveiling the truth mean embracing the worst of herself? The shadows drew closer, still hungry, still relentless. Mom, please. His voice pierced through to her, and as darkness encased her once more, she knew. The decision was brutally clear. No going back now that I end the storm of her choices. How could she know what to do next? The chamber pulsed, the air crackling, drawing her into the unknown depths again, where more chilling secrets lay in wait. The chamber around Sarah pulsed like a living thing, a grotesque reminder of the weight resting on her shoulders. She felt the chill seep deeper into her bones, a thick mist pushing against her, a sign that the darkness was closing in. Her heart raced, thumping violently against her ribcage, echoing like a drumbeat of despair. Tommy, she shouted again, her voice cracking under the strain. The shadows flickered as if responding to her call, but remained suffocatingly close, wrapping themselves around her like a cold shroud. Can you hear me? From the depths came a whimper, barely recognizable, but hauntingly familiar. Mommy, it echoed, a sound that tore through her, piercing all the doubts clouding her mind. Each pitiful utterance stoked the fire inside her heart, igniting a fierce determination. With a sudden surge of energy, Sarah pushed against the wall of darkness, the blackness swirling faster, gaining solidity, threatening to pull her under once again. Memories rushed in fiercely Tommy's laughter on sunny days. Bedtime stories whispered into the quiet night, gleeful moments that felt worlds away now. No, she couldn't let the shadows rob her of that. But there, within that rapidly darkening void, she sensed something more. The malevolent figure loomed, its twisted form brimming with an insatiable hunger. You cannot win, Sarah. The heart is a fragile prize. It hissed, its voice wrapping around her like barbed wire. Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat, anger flaring. You're wrong. My love for Tommy is stronger than you. She didn't believe it fully, but she grasped for the flickering hope. With a scream that echoed in the void, she pushed forward, cutting through the night. Light flickered around her, illuminating erratic shapes' faces twisted in agony, pleading for release from the curse that bound them. Ghosts. They hovered at the edges, drawn to her warmth even as they shuddered in the cold. Fear seeped through their sunken eyes, and she realized they were once like her, perhaps mothers or fathers caught in a nightmarish web of despair. Don't give in. Fight, a whisper urged, mixing with the cries of the lost. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if frightened by her defiance. Hesitation enveloped her as the darkness wrapped tighter, tightening its grip again. You want to save him? You'll have to pay a price. The figure taunted softly, its eyes glinting like sharp knives in the dark. What do you want? She asked, fury and fear blending. What kind of sacrifice do you need? The grinning figure leaned closer, a grotesque dance of shadows merging and shifting, teasing her with glimpses of choice. You can unravel this thread. But no, every choice carries weight. You could sacrifice your memories of him, or you may surrender yourself entirely. What will it be? Heart pounding, Sarah's thoughts spiraled wildly. The claustrophobic air thickened, making it difficult to breathe. Each possibility cast a longer shadow over her, each option a blade poised to slice through her very essence. Tommy, she gasped, needing to drown out the siren call of sacrifice that echoed through the darkness. I won't abandon you. The presence quivered, the air buzzing with anticipation. Silence stretched out, an unbearable gap filled with promises of loss and terror they both faced. But beyond that, a single thought crystallized, a profound belief forged through years of love. Mom, please, I'm scared. Did she have the strength to hold on, to fight against the inevitable waves of despair that threatened to engulf them both? A sudden snap echoed in her mind, and she felt the walls of fear beginning to crack. Just as she gathered herself to push deeper into the shadows, a guttural roar surged through the chamber, shaking the very ground beneath her. You will choose, or be lost forever. The darkness pulsed ominously, and with each heartbeat, Sarah felt the very fabric of her being unraveling. In that moment, a chilling realization gripped her. What kind of mother would she be if she let fear dictate her decisions? Was there truth hidden in the alliance with this monster? As the world around her fractured, the shadows trembled and surged forward, pulling her on a dangerous precipice. But even as darkness loomed heavily above, a flicker of the light, the vivid image of her son, broke through the chaos. Would she tear down the shadows and grasp for love, or would the abyss swallow them both? The choice lay before her, and the haunting voices around her grew louder. What would she want to sacrifice to save her son? With her last ounce of strength, she screamed, I'll fight. I won't let you take him. The shadowed being hissed, a whirlwind of rage and desperation swirling around her. Just then, a rift opened in the darkness, pulsing with blinding light. What lay beyond could change everything. Would love light the way, or were they walking into the mouth of despair? The blinding light enveloped Sarah, swallowing her whole as the shadows recoiled, shrieking in agony. It was warmth and brightness, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness that had gripped her moments before. For an instant, hope surged through her, a feeling long lost to despair. She pushed forward into the light, every step feeling like a bridge away from sorrow, a lifeline to her son. But as the radiance faded, she found herself in a different kind of darkness. The chamber morphed into an endless void, twinkling with distant stars that mocked her. She was alone. Tommy? Her voice was swallowed, lost to the vastness. Panic scraped at her insides like nails on wood. The warmth was fading, replaced by a bone-deep chill that seeped back in, wrapping its tendrils around her heart. The edges of her sanity frayed as shadows curled around her like serpents, waiting to strike. "Mommy," the familiar voice broke through the darkness, a lifeline reaching out. Sarah's heart sank, twisting with fear. "I'm here." She turned, desperate to follow the sound, but it echoed like an illusion close yet painfully far. "You're running out of time," the figure rasped, appearing brightly from the inky shadows, a grotesque reminder of the choice that loomed over her like a guillotine. "You've entered my domain, and here old wounds fester. Here I am king. Let him go," she screamed, defiance pushing through the haze of dread. "I won't let you take him," the malevolent being chuckled, deep and mocking. "Your fight only draws you deeper into the web. Each moment spent searching nourishes my grasp. Do you feel it? The sweetness of your desperation? The price of love is steep and bloody." Sarah felt it, a surge of energy, but it was a dark power that throbbed like a heartbeat in sync with her own. Shadows danced with wild abandon, pulsating as they whispered sinister secrets into every corner of her mind. "What have you done?" she breathed, realizing the horror. This place fed on her weakness. "Just a taste," the figure taunted, slipping closer, its form undulating in and out of focus. "I give and you crave, that's how it works. Your love has made you fertile ground. Will you sacrifice yourself now for him?" "No." A sudden turbulent force surged within her, igniting her memories like kindling in a fire. Tommy's laughter, his tiny hands that gripped hers, these images fueled her resolve. But alongside them were buried fears. What if he was lost? What if he suffered? "You don't have to lose everything to save him," the being hissed, its voice insidious, dripping with temptation. "Release those memories. You would forget all pain, all fear. You could live without this burden." "Stop." Sarah felt her heart racing. "You're lying. I'd rather die than forget him." The shadows recoiled at her words, and the chamber lurched, as if the walls themselves were reacting to her defiance. "Your heart carries weight, heavy weight," the figure hissed, its eyes narrowing. "Each choice will pull you further from the light. Embrace the darkness, and the boy lives." "What do you know of love?" she shouted, trembling as the shadows coiled tight around her like a living noose. "You don't know anything." "Love?" it mocked, twisting the word. "Love is the greatest trap of all." In that moment, a sense of clarity pierced through the fog. She could see Tommy's face through the darkness, fearful yet filled with love. That's all she needed to wield against this nightmare. "Release him," she demanded, a defiant roar against the encroaching shadows. "I'll find him. I'll break your darkness." Her words hung heavy in the air, and for a heartbeat, silence enveloped them, thick and charged. But as the shadows stirred angrily, she felt the elusive connection with her son crackle in the air. "Then come, find me," the being spat, fading slightly, the darkness thickening, swirling towards her like tidal waves. But no darkness always demands a price. And then it rushed at her, a storm of whispers and screams crashing against her resolve. Sarah braced herself, feeling the cracks in her own spirit widen, her memories slipping like sand. "Tommy," she howled as the darkness pressed in, a despair deeper than she'd ever known. With her heart pounding and fear like ice in her veins, she plunged forward into the unknown, every second stretching like an eternity. What awaited her in the infinite black? Would she find her son, or would the shadows drown her in despair? The echo of a child's laughter pierced through, promising both hope and heartache. In that moment, she knew she was just beginning to unveil the true cost of love. Sarah plunged deeper into the darkness, the cold closing in around her like a vice. The laughter was mingled with cries that seemed to twist and bend through the swirling shadows, piercing her thoughts with fear. Each echo sounded tantalizingly close yet alarmingly out of reach, like a fading dream slipping through her fingers. "Tommy, where are you?" she shouted. Her voice bounced off unseen walls, mocking her desperation. With each shout, despair gnawed at her, its sharp teeth gnashing against her resolve. The darkness pressed closer, a tide of shadows eager to claim her. Then she heard it. A faint whisper, soft like a breeze. "Mommy, help me." The ragged breath of hope fluttered in her chest, pushing her forward with renewed determination. But the shadows coiled with more aggression, snaking around her ankles and waist, pulling her back. A bitter chill seeped in, as if the very air sought to paralyze her. "No!" she gasped, grappling against the creeping tendrils. The walls felt alive, pulsating with an insatiable hunger for her fear. "Not now." She focused on Tommy's voice, wrapping herself in the precious memory of his innocent laughter as her lifeboat in this storm. With a roar, she broke free, launching herself deeper into the void. It felt like running through molasses, each step heavy with dread. The laughter faded into echoes of gray, replaced by the low rumble of a voice that seemed to seep from all around her. "You tread where light fears to shine." It bellowed, a guttural growl that resonated through the air, vibrating in her bones. "You'll pay for your foolishness, Sarah." Her name hung in the air, ominous and dark. The being was toying with her, its presence suffocating. She could feel the weight of the shadows pressing down, each one weaving encounters from her past, her mistakes. Regrets, sharp memories designed to stab the heart. Panic surged. They knew her, every secret she wished to bury. She fought back the biting guilt. "I'm not afraid of you," she yelled, her voice cracking but holding strong. Fear tugged at her like a disobedient child, yet she clutched tighter to the memory of Tommy, to the light of his spirit shining like a beacon far away. "Foolish girl." The figure mocked, its laughter joining the cacophony of whispers from the inky void. "You're already drowning in darkness." "Let go, no!" she cried, the single word exploding from her chest. The moment rang out, vibrating through the chaos, and a new surge of defiance crashed over her. Her surroundings shifted. The shadows recoiled, the echo of their whispers dulling into an unbearable silence. As if sensing her resolve, they lashed back violently, becoming sharp claws that grazed her skin, a myriad of sensations twisting her into knots. But from within, a flame flickered, a wild, fierce fire fueled by desperation and unconditional love. Suddenly, she glimpsed it. A flicker, a shimmer cutting through the darkness ahead. A figure, small and fragile, arms outstretched. "Mommy!" Tommy's voice rang out, a melody rising through the storm. "Tommy!" she screamed, galloping toward him with newfound strength, her heart pounding like a war drum. The shadows dove at her, howling angrily, but she was ready to face them, to tear through the fabric of despair woven around her. Yet, the moment their hands could touch, Tommy's form blurred, shimmering like a mirage. "You shouldn't be here." His eyes widened in terror. "You must go back." "Why?" "The shadows, they want to take your soul." His voice trembled as the surrounding darkness grew denser. "You have to choose." The darkness rippled, eyes flickering into existence, staring hungrily at her. It felt like the walls were collapsing, squeezing the life from her. "Choose," it echoed, rising into a deafening roar as Sarah felt the floor drop away. Pressure surged like a tidal wave, hitting her with a visceral blow. Would she sacrifice herself for him? Could she bear the price demanded by the shadows? The laughter grew frantic, echoing into madness, and Sarah realized she stood at the threshold of a choice darker than she had ever imagined. What would she sacrifice to save her son? With a breath that felt like it could ignite the very shadows around her, Sarah steadied herself, the weight of despair slipping against her resolve. As the darkness writhed hungrily around her, she focused entirely on Tommy's frightened face, the panic lurking just below his surface, trying to keep them both afloat in this chaotic tide. "Not you, Tommy," she shouted, determination flooding her voice. The twisted whispers screamed in disapproval, the shadows tightening their grip, trying to siphon her strength into a simmering storm of fear. But the flame inside her blazed brighter. They would not win. "Look at me," she demanded, her heart racing as she blinked back tears. "I will never let them take you. I will fight." The creature of darkness shrieked as it recoiled, its shadows flickering uncertainly, overwhelmed by the courage surging up through the cracks of despair. But the choice lingered, heavy like a weight pulling at her very core. Was it her life they desired? Or something deeper? The walls trembled with the voice of the entity, a menace that wrapped itself around her heart. You cannot save him without consequence. It hissed, its shimmering form distorting and reforming around her. I'd give anything, she roared, heart ablaze as she took a step forward into the darkness, clutching the memory of Tommy like a shield. She felt the warmth of his laughter encasing her, a soft melody in this cacophony of torment. Will you forfeit your memories? The shadows rippled closer, eager to ensnare her in their darkness. Will you lose the essence of your love? I would rather lose it all than you, Sarah declared fiercely, the weight of her words carving determination into the shadows. My love for him cannot be taken from me, no matter what you do. The malevolent figure twisted, revealing twisted eyes that danced with rage mingled with surprise. The very air around Sarah pulsed, the shadows shuddering in conflict. I will choose love, she declared, bolstered by a flicker of light she hoped would never fade. I will carve a path back through the darkness. With her heart beating like an eagle in flight, she marched forward, feeling Tommy's spirit brush against her as he began to re-emerge from the void. Tommy, she cried, her voice breaking through the darkness, each syllable pushing against the thick miasma that reached for her. Hold on. Amidst the tumult, she caught a glimpse of her son. His small hands reached out, sparkling with light interlaced with shadows. Mommy, please, you have to hurry, he pleaded, voice wobbling with fear and love blending as one. Together, she shouted, her heart igniting the very air surrounding them. And in that moment, something magnificent happened. The shadows wailed, twisting and recoiling from the radiance surged forward. It became a bridge, their bond pulling them through. She grasped his hands tightly, every ounce of her spirit pouring into him, every flicker of love igniting the shadows like an unwanted fire, and what felt like an eternity compressed into a heartbeat. Sarah and Tommy were launched forward into the light, a blinding wave of warmth crashing like a surge of hope against the oppressive coldness. Time blurred around them as warmth enveloped like a protective cocoon, the howls of the shadows dissolving into a far-off echo, only whispers of despair remaining. Finally, Sarah found herself still standing in her kitchen, breathless but alive, the shadows pushed back into the places they belonged. Mom! Tommy's laughter chirped like an excited songbird, filling the air and chasing the shadowy remnants outside. He rushed and wrapped himself tightly around her waist, clinging to her, and for a moment, they reveled in the safety of each other, coherence chasing away the darkness that had threatened to consume them. Nothing is going to hurt us again, I promise, Sarah breathed, squeezing him tight, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks as she looked around, realizing the evil whispers had dissipated into mere memories. But even as they stood, hearts pounding with the aftermath of fear and satisfaction, Sarah felt the echo of darkness linger at the corners of her thoughts, the threat of its return always an unending possibility. The world would always hold secrets, some hidden in the shadows. She could keep her love safe, but she could never fully banish the shadows from her life. Are you okay, Tommy? She whispered softly, pressing a kiss into his hair, relief and love racing through her veins. Yeah, I'm okay, he murmured, but let us not go back to Mrs. Jenkins' house. Okay? Sarah smiled through the tears, resting her chin atop his head. We won tea, I promise. We can start fresh. Just us. As she held him close, she felt strength surge, both her love and the truth crafted an unbreakable bond, a shield against whatever darkness lingered in their world. Your choice is clear, Sarah. You chose love, your love will conquer all. She mused softly, shaking off the remnants of fear. Sarah couldn't know what shadows may linger, but one thing was certain. Together, they would rise and fight. They had weathered the storm, faced the darkness, and emerged with their hearts intertwined in love. This was their moment, and the shadows were behind them, just there, waiting, knowing. But they were not afraid anymore as the sun crested the horizon, bursting through the remnants of night, The dawn felt like a new beginning, a gift born of love's fierce rebellion against the shadows. And with that, Sarah turned toward the light, a promise that their story wasn't finished. It was only just beginning. If you made it this far, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss exclusive stories like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us make this community alive. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. Your support is vital. True fans understand the importance of these actions. Go, go, go!